What's going on, guys? This is Foresight Capital, and today we're going to take a look at Palantir's price action from last week and talk about some expectations for the coming week, because it's going to be an absolutely incredible week for Palantir leading into a very volatile 1-month period. So we know that we've got the transition in administration coming up towards the middle of the week that's likely going to have the markets all over the place, Palantir included. And this is also the last trading week for Palantir before demo day next week, which means investors are going to be trying to price every cent that they can in to catch the move for demo day. And that really kicks us off into an additional 3-week volatile period where we've got Q4 earnings coming out and then the lockup expiration date 3 trading days after Q4 earnings, where up to 80% of the total shares of Palantir are eligible to hit the market from insider selling that have potentially been holding on to these shares for many years. So it's going to be a very volatile week. We're going to cover some of the rumors that are going around about Palantir and then some quick expectations from the pricing side. Now, I've already given my thoughts on Palantir that this is really just a 3 to 5 year hold that you're going to buy and hold, but I know a lot of you are looking for a way to get out at a profit or to get in at a discount, so I want to cover the price action. Now, if you've yet to sign up for the Discord for this channel, check that out in the link in the description below. We've got a really great community that's growing quickly, and I actually give out my charts all the time of different stocks that I'm watching, and I give reasons of when I'm going to buy and sell, as well as updates every single time I buy or sell a stock. There's also a lot of other great conversations going on in other channels we have, so if you're interested in any of that, I actually just cut the price by 50% to make it more accessible to everyone, so check that out in the link in the description below. And lastly, if you've yet to sign up for Webull, sign up for that using the link in the description below. Deposit just $100 and you will get 4 free stocks valued at up to $3,700. So we're going to dive right in here and we'll talk about the technical side of things first, but you're going to want to stick around until we talk about some of the rumors that are swirling around, because they could be big catalysts if they turn out to be true. So we've seen a general overall downtrend for Palantir over the past really 2-month period, but on Friday we actually saw the first daily candle open and close entirely above this downtrend. So we've got this pink line indicating the downtrend that's been going on since November 27th, all-time highs. We had a full day of open and close price action above that downtrend, potentially indicating that the trend has at least reversed in the short term. We also beautifully used $24.60 per share, indicated by this yellow line, as support yet again on Thursday, which ultimately caused the stock to bounce. And coupled with ARK Invest buying about $12 million worth of Palantir, really gave the stock a catalyst to close above that long-term downtrend line on Friday. So we'll come back to some expectations for price action for the week moving forward a little bit later in the video. But I first wanted to talk about some interesting news that I actually ignored at first because it seemed like an illegitimate news site, but it's recently been picked up by the NASDAQ, and that is that Palantir's virus contract with the US government is potentially under threat. And this contract is a relatively large portion of next year's expected revenue. So the contract in question is with the Department of Health and Human Services, in which Palantir helped develop a system to data mine for the government, and it is being called into question by the current administration for its accuracy. And they're actually indicating that potentially the current administration is pushing for the new administration to find a better solution. Now, this was originally reported by the Daily Beast, which I'll be honest, I didn't trust just looking at the overall aesthetics of the website, but they mentioned that specifically the current administration is really pushing the new one to find a different solution, because the current administration really just had to put something out on the market quickly, and so there wasn't a whole lot of competition going on. Therefore, Palantir was selected really in a no competition contract. Now that the NASDAQ has picked it up, though, it legitimizes it a bit more for my own mind. Now, the contract in question, as we can see from the article, is actually not The $36 million contract that they signed with the NIH, that happened later, so we'll talk about which contract it likely is here, and it's likely going to be a contract that they signed back in May. Now, they really signed three major contracts for the current virus situation back in May. They signed a $5 million contract with the Department of Veterans Affairs. They signed a $2 million contract with the National Institute of Health, and then they signed a $25 million contract with the Department of Health and Human Services. So this is likely the contract that is in question as potentially not going to be renewed. That makes sense to me timeline-wise because this is May, which of course we know the beginning of the virus was towards the end of March, or at least when the government picked it up and really wanted to do something about it. So that means that that is likely the contract in question, roughly about 2% of next year's projected revenues. Now, it's important to note that this was a one-year contract to begin with, and it was a non-competitive contract, meaning that it was probably a profitable contract for Palantir relative to some of the other contracts that they may have to be a bit more competitive on. And it is a fair amount of next year's projected revenue, but it wasn't necessarily going to be renewed in the first place. So I mentioned all of that because that is one potential negative catalyst that's going on that as of this point is really just a rumor, but has been picked up by the NASDAQ. So it is something to kind of keep an eye out for. I don't think that we're going to see any big price movements as a result. But if the word gets out there and it gets kind of extrapolated into something more than the $25 million contract value that I think that we're talking about here, it could be a negative catalyst for the stock. Now, one positive catalyst for the stock that I really can't find any credible news sources on, but I've seen multiple YouTube videos on, as well as posts on Reddit, is that Mr. Karp and Mr. Cohen are potentially going to purchase $185 million of Palantir in the coming days leading into demo day or before Q4 earnings to show their overall bullish nature on their own company, which of course would make sense for insiders to do, as it would pump the stock price up prior to Q4 earnings and the lockup period expiring. However, at this point, I'm really not finding any credible sources. I've typed it into Google multiple ways. I've checked out all of my standard sources that I would check out for an article like this, and I really haven't seen anything credible. So to my knowledge, this is also really just a rumor intended to kind of pump up the stock. All of that being said, though, still going to be a very volatile week, I feel like, for Palantir. So from a technical side of things, which is what I'm really going to cover, I'm not really going to give a price target here because if it's not correct the very next day or within 2 days after giving a price target, there tend to be a lot of negative comments. And keep in mind, I said this is a long-term buy and hold stock. I really am just trying to help people get a better entry or get out if they want to reallocate their money elsewhere. So my thoughts are, now that we've broken this longer-term downtrend, we do start to see continuous pushes towards 2770. We know that it's been rejected by 2770 multiple times, including a couple of periods where we actually broke above it for a day or two, but we're still rejected in the long term. So I think next week we start to see higher lows. We've started to see higher lows really since the beginning of January. And on every single pullback, we're seeing a higher low, meaning that potentially we're going to see some higher highs and push towards the 2770 resistance level. If we can break above this pink line, which is actually indicative of the general uptrend that we've been on since the beginning of January when we touched 2260, which again is a long-term support line that I have been talking about. If we can break to the upside of this and break above 2770, I feel like that's when we really start to get pushing towards 3350, which is all-time highs. But we need to see an open and close above this pink line and an open and close above this red line, ideally simultaneously. If not, I think we continue to trade in between these levels. Still relatively volatile. That's still a 10% range on the stock. We know that average daily variation is really about 5 to 7% for the stock, so it wouldn't be unthinkable with a short week to trade in this range, but should still be very volatile throughout the week. So overall, I think the general trend is up. I think we're going to continue to push towards 2770 and not really see breaks back below this pink line. I think that potentially the stock could be reversing and starting to trend back upwards. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below, though, on price targets for the week, if you have a specific price target, or just leave a comment that says you're wrong if you want to say that as well. Always curious to hear your thoughts. I really appreciate you watching until the end, and if this video brought you value, again, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Check out the Discord link in the description below. Catch you in the next one.